Donald Trump is a wreck right now, and he's losing all control at Mar-a-Lago. He's posting images of himself with the caption, Trumplicans. That's his new name for MAGA since MAGA has left him. He's calling himself Trumplicans. Donald Trump also announced via social media posts that he would be pardoning one of the biggest drug traffickers who was convicted in federal court because Donald Trump believes that the drug trafficker from Honduras, their former president, has been treated unfairly. Donald Trump also announced that any executive order believed to be signed by former President Biden, Donald Trump says it's now void because of an auto pen. And he says that if Biden denies signing any executive order, we will charge Biden with perjury. We will prosecute him. What, are you going to prosecute him for perjury? What are you even talking about? Now, Donald Trump learned about the latest Gallup poll data that was just released today. The Gallup poll data shows that Trump has a 60% disapproval. Only 36% of Americans approve of Donald Trump. That is the lowest ever in the history of Donald Trump and the Gallup poll. Also, in addition to those posts that I just mentioned, Donald Trump continues to make posts referring to people by the R word. The R word, the derogatory word of persons with disabilities, the word I despise the most, and it's having significant impact. And Donald Trump called Governor Walz of Minnesota the R word on a social media post. I don't even want to repeat it, but an Indiana Republican senator says, you know what? This has consequences. He said that his second daughter has Down syndrome, and Trump using the R word like that convinced this lawmaker, Michael Boachek, to not vote for Donald Trump's attempt to gerrymander Indiana. This Indiana senator says, he's a Republican. He's like a MAGA guy. He's like, good luck, Donald, in the midterms. I'm done with you. So how is Trump responding to MAGA leaving, the lowest poll numbers ever? What's he doing right now? Well, he's sending out emails to his supporters. I guess he calls them Trumplicans now. And here's what he's saying. Do you love me? Do you love me? Take the poll. You're the reason that all of this is possible, and I wanted to make sure you knew how much I appreciate you. Do you love me? So we're going to be doing a Thanksgiving fundraising blitz today. Can you please give me some money? That's what Donald Trump is posting right there. Also, Donald Trump continued to sell stuff via email over this Thanksgiving weekend. He called it his special Black Friday deal. But when our investigators at the MeidasTouch Network looked at the Black Friday deal, the deals were more expensive than if you just bought the products from the website. Let me explain. So he sends this email about a Trump MAGA ornament. He calls it the MAGA 4547 red hat ornament. And he goes, we're giving you the reduced price. It's just $37. Well, if you just go to the website itself, they're selling it for $30. Well, what about another email that Donald Trump said? He goes, he's sending his MAGA 2026 calendar for just $32. Well, if you just went to the website, you can buy it for $25. Everything Trump does is a fraud and a grift. Speaking about grifts, Eric Trump, here's what his post was today. So excited to announce that Trump vodka is available for pre-orders. Head over to trumpvodka.com to get your hands on the first bottles. Cheers. They just can't help themselves. They have to grift each and every day, and it's never enough for them. They take and they take. It's why California Governor Gavin Newsom's nickname for them as these like invasive species is such a perfect way of framing them. It's what they are. They are invasive species. All right, let's take a look at Donald Trump's post where he says, I will hereby be voiding all of the orders signed by former President Biden. He goes, any document signed by Sleepy Joe Biden with the auto pen, which was approximately 92% of them, is hereby terminated and no further force and effect is given to them. The auto pen is not allowed to be used used if approval is not specifically given by the President of the United States. The radical left lunatic circling Biden around the beautiful Resolute desk in the Oval Office took the presidency away from him. I'm hereby canceling all executive orders, anything else that was not directly signed by crooked Joe Biden, because the people who operated the auto pen did so illegally. Joe Biden was not involved in the auto pen process, and if he says he was, he will be brought up on charges of perjury. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Do we see how sick and deranged this lunatic is? Calling governors the R word, saying that you're going to prosecute the former president for perjury because you've created and concocted a auto pen conspiracy, because you are suffering clear physical and mental issues, while regardless of that, your poll numbers are dropping, your regime is collapsing, the people despise you. Is what's going on right here. So then Donald Trump made a post where he's again continuing to try to interfere in the elections in Honduras. He hates the current leader, Xiomara Castro, and her predecessor, and the person who from her party who's running. Donald Trump wants this guy Tito Asfura to win so that Donald Trump can control what's happening in Honduras. And in this message where Donald Trump says, if you don't vote for Tito, that's the guy Trump wants in because he'd be a MAGA puppet. If you don't vote Tito, Trump says that he's going to hurt the country of Honduras. And then he goes on to say that he's granting a full and complete pardon to the former president, Juan Orlando Hernandez, who has been, according to many people, Donald Trump says, someone I greatly respect and treated very harshly and unfairly. According to people that I respect, he's been treated harshly and unfairly. This cannot be allowed to happen, especially now, after Tito Asfura wins the election, when Honduras will be on its way to great political and financial success. Vote for Tito Asfura for president, and congratulations to Juan Orlando Hernandez on your upcoming pardon. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, just to be very clear, Juan Orlando Hernandez and his brother are effectively serving life sentences, 45-year sentences in U.S. prisons. They were extradited to the U.S. They were charged and prosecuted in the United States for basically being part of the conspiracy of the largest drug trafficking ring in all time. They worked closely with El Chapo and the Sinaloa cartel and other cartels to use their official position leading Honduras, and even before that, when he was a leader in government, but to use their position as the president of Honduras to provide quarter, aid, support, logistics to the Sinaloa cartel. Tens of billions, potentially in excess of $100 billion of cocaine and other drugs moved into the United States. Compelling testimony at trial demonstrated all of this. And this is the guy that Donald Trump's supporting and pardoning, while Donald Trump orders airstrikes off the coast of Venezuela and Colombia, likely killing a lot of innocent fishermen. And even if you were to say that the individuals were drug dealers, you're talking about the mules, you're talking about the lowest level of the people, while you're letting out the leaders of cartel, you're giving them pardons. Are you kidding me? And we know that a lot of those killings off the coast of Venezuela and Colombia were likely of innocent people. And regardless, there's something called process. And we don't just kill human beings, or at least we didn't in the United States before this fascist regime took over. And now one of the things that we're learning with a exclusive scoop by the Washington Post is that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, who unlawfully refers to himself as the Secretary of War, ordered on the first Caribbean boat strike that everybody be killed no matter what happens to them. He ordered SEAL Team 6 to blow up the boats, and then when there were survivors, he ordered SEAL Team 6 to go back and to blow up the survivors. The survivors were holding on for dear life on parts of the boat. They could have been rescued, and Hegseth said, kill him now. And SEAL Team 6 carried out those orders. You see now why that 4-star admiral in the Caribbean in Southcom, Admiral Hoseley, you'll see why he left. These are clear examples of war crimes. in World War II and prior wars were people who engaged in these war crimes and they were convicted in war tribunals. The penalty was like the death sentence for engaging in these horrific types of war crimes right here. Here's how the Washington Post described it. As the smoke cleared, they got a jolt. 2 survivors were clinging to the smoldering wreck. The Special Operations Commander ordered a second strike to comply with Hegseth's instructions. The 2 men on the fishing boat who survived, there were 11 men originally, and then 2 men survived. The 2 men were blown apart. How horrific, how sick, how disgusting. But we'll explain to you what's going on as well here. You've got state regime media, Trump propaganda network, just endorsing outright racism right here, saying, how do we have realistic policy conversations about how certain cultures are just incompatible with ours? We need to have realistic conversations that cultures just don't work with Western values. This is what you're platforming. Looks like Nazi Germany. Here, play this clip.
We do not have any obligation whatsoever to anyone to allow them entry into our country and to all of the benefits that offers. We don't have any obligation to do that. And quite frankly, it's asinine that we can't have a realistic policy conversation about how certain cultures are quite literally incompatible with ours. It should be okay to say that. And more importantly, it should be okay to base our immigration policy on that. So I'm glad that President Trump is taking some steps in that direction because it is a long time coming.
Indeed.
By the way, I'll do a longer report on this, but state regime media known as Fox went after us last night. Laura Ingraham's said, media tries to go after Trump's cognitive health. And it was my interview with Dr. Vin Gupta of Midas Health. You see that right? You see that right there. I'll do a longer report on that, but Fox was going after me and this network yesterday for the interview and the research that we've done. And then finally on state regime media, they bring in billionaire Kelly Loeffler. And she blames Biden for the reason that small businesses are struggling now. Play this clip.
But there is, however, a lot of reflections and statistics and anecdotes and these experiences that reflect a downward trend for optimism. For October, for example, the small business index, it dips again. It was 98.2. That was down 0.6% of optimism from September. A lot of these factors include the fact that, first of all, they're still absorbing costs from the prior administration. But my dad and others, up to 32% had an open job that they could not fill, down 9% on reports as well of positive profit trends, with a lot of these costs being absorbed by the small business owner or oftentimes pushed to the consumer. So what can we look forward to in the way of relief for these small business owners that this administration will be delivering?
That's right, Emily. As I've gone across the country, state after state, talking to small business owners just like your dad, they have struggled under not only the Bidenflation that raised price levels over 20%, for many small business 40 to 50%, but the massive regulatory agenda that the Biden administration heaped on small businesses. President Trump is digging us out of that. And now with the working family tax cuts, we have those small business pass-through deductions permanent, immediate expensing. And then the Democrat shutdown in October impacted millions of small businesses. We know that because at the SBA, $5 billion didn't get delivered to Main Street in the form of lending. That affected 10,000 small businesses, and about 65,000 small businesses didn't have their government contracting.
Well, there you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers, and thanks for watching.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.